Good morning, guten Morgen, magandang umaga, bonjour. This video might be rather long because I'm about to share a piece of my testimony. And the reason why I'm sharing it because it makes a very valid point. So please excuse my long-windedness. I'm going to try to crunch it down as much as I possibly can. So, shortly after my first divorce, I was working at St. Anselm College. I'm not sure if it was officially in Goffstown or Manchester, New Hampshire, but I was working there. My girls were very young at the time, and because I was solely taking care of them, and my ex only had them every other weekend, anytime they got sick or had a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment or any appointment, or they were sick, they couldn't go to school or daycare. So I had taken so much time off, unpaid time off, that my employer, I had a meeting with him, and he was being kind about it. He said, like, I can't keep making excuses to human resources about why you're taking all this time off. And I was basically telling him that I can't guarantee that I'm not going to take any more time off. You don't know when your children are sick. So I wound up, rather than getting fired, I wound up giving my 2-week notice, because I felt like, for one, I wanted to walk away on good terms. I wanted them to be a good reference on future applications. So I didn't want to leave on bad terms. But I also didn't understand that I was basically leaving on my own accord and giving a 2-week notice, that there was no way I could collect unemployment. So I kind of shot myself in the foot trying to be kind and considerate to the people at the college. So I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be at that time. My girls were 11 years old, and my youngest daughter was nearly 8. She turns 8. She turned 18 yesterday. I can't believe it. But so this was a decade ago. And so I had a hard time finding another job, and I was desperate. I was absolutely desperate, and I had a job interview in Concord, New Hampshire. This restaurant was called Cafe Indigo. It was a vegan restaurant, and the job that I applied for was a kitchen assistant. It paid $7.25 an hour, minimum wage. And again, I was just so happy to receive the work. So when I started that job, I didn't realize that they not only wanted me to be a kitchen assistant, they should have called it being a waitress or a waiter, because they required me to be more out front of the restaurant, or at least just as much out front as in the kitchen. So I was a waiter, you know, cleaning, vacuuming the lobby area, the bathroom. And being a kitchen assistant, they had a baker there who made gluten-free vegan cakes and regular. It was all vegan because they used like tofu, cream cheese, and you know, applesauce and all that kind of stuff. The cakes were awesome, and so I was assisting the baker, I was assisting the cook, I was doing dishes. When I say I was assisting the baker, is I would make the frosting, prep the pans, and measure out ingredients for her, like the tofu, cream cheese. I did a lot. I had to, when I first started there, they had this storage room that was an absolute mess. And I organized the storage room where, you know, setting up shelves where they could find everything. They had these breads in the freezer that didn't have any labels. You had to dig through them all to figure out, you know, what was what. So I took it all out and I labeled them so you knew exactly where they were. You know, I set up the teas. Like I was very good at organizing stuff, so I was more than happy to make things a lot easier for people rather than wasting time looking for stuff. And so after a few months working there, the owner had something against me. And I'm guessing it had to do with the cook and the baker. There are two older women that worked in the kitchen that were possibly gossiping behind my back because I was the new person. And when I first started there, I wasn't properly trained. I had never been a waitress before. And the girl that trained me, I got training for 3 days with not a lot of customers. Then she went on vacation and the manager left because she just had a new granddaughter. So she was gone for 2 weeks. So it was just me, the dishwasher, the cook, and the baker. And I had to figure everything else out on my own. Luckily, I'm pretty good about being independent, but it was stressful that I couldn't rely on the baker or the cook to do my job. So when the lobby got really busy and I was the only waiter, because the restaurant was small but it had 7 tables in it, so there were times when there was, you know, all the tables were full, plus people were doing like takeout orders, so I had to cash them out and do the tables, whomever was in the lobby. So it was stressful. So sometimes when I go into the kitchen, I didn't think I was giving her an attitude, but it might have come across like that, because I think she did mention it one time. But I was very direct. I had to be. You know, I had to tell her that I need cornbread for this one, I need this, 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 and this. So she took it as, because I was being direct, well, you don't have to give me an attitude about it. And I'm like, once someone thinks you have an attitude, it's really hard to get them to see something other than that. I wasn't going to argue with it. All I said to her is, I'm not giving you an attitude. I'm sorry. Can you get my cornbread? And I need this, this, and this, because I had like 6 or 7 tables out in the lobby. So because the manager was friends with the cook and the baker, I think that maybe the two women had said something about my poor attitude, and so I could see the mood that changed in the manager and owner. She was the manager and owner of this restaurant that her daughter started because her family was vegan and they thought it was a good idea to open a business, and it was, for that area, for Concord. So one of the problems that I did have with that job was I had to split my tips with the cook, the baker, and the dishwasher. Even though, they it's like the cook was making over $12 an hour or $12 an hour. The baker's making the same. The dishwasher was probably making the same as me, $7.25 an hour. But I didn't see a reason why I should have split my tips with any of them, considering the fact that I did all the work, mostly. Sometimes the baker, I would say, could you cut a piece of cake for me? Laundry's done. I know, it always seems like I'm doing laundry. If I had asked her for help on certain weeks, I probably would have been more than happy to give her a portion of my tips, but it didn't work that way. I don't know how the manager split the tips because I never calculated how much I was making during the day, but when the manager wasn't there, I made between $12 and $16 in that my portion of the tips. The cook was, while the manager was gone, the cook was divvying up the tips because she was, doing the register at the end of the night. So while the manager was gone, I was making between $12 and $16 in a day, which didn't seem right to me because I was like, there was, I don't know how many customers who tipped I don't know how much, and I'm making $12 to $16 while, I don't know how they divvied it up amongst themselves. But it was even worse when the manager came back because she would do the register. I wouldn't get the tips till Friday or Monday. And she'd give me $20. $20. And I'm like, $20 for Monday through Friday? I know I made more than $20 in one day. And she didn't realize that I was taking the tip money to go to the small local grocery store to buy dinner for me and my girls. So why am I sharing this testimony? Well, when I had left that job, it was Christmas, close to Christmas time, and she had stated, because it was like the 22nd or the 23rd, that she was closing the restaurant on the 23rd and she wasn't going to open up again until after New Year's. She didn't know how much she knew I was a single mother of two young girls. She didn't know how much I truly depended on the money that I was making. And before we went on this vacation time, she called me into her office and she had bones to pick with me, I guess, about certain things. And it was like she was trying to find an error somewhere to be upset at me about. The first one was that I didn't charge someone $1 for the side of salsa. So I explained to her that the person ordered that meal with hummus we didn't have enough hummus. We only had like a couple tablespoons of hummus. So I asked her if it was all right if she had the salsa along with it and I wouldn't charge her extra. So the manager wanted to be mad at me about that. So I explained to her what happened. She's like, oh, okay. So because she couldn't be upset with me about that, you know, she started in on me about, you know, how I didn't pull my weight that day. And I'm like, what? Like that day, I didn't take my lunch. I had a half-hour paid lunch and I had a free lunch with the restaurant. I didn't sit down and start eating. I show up at 7:30 in the morning to open up and start coffee and stuff. I didn't sit down until 2:30 that day. I was so tired and I was so hungry. And when I sat down at 2:30 to eat, and she walked through the kitchen and saw me taking my lunch, I could feel the attitude, the negative attitude towards me. And I'm like, just sitting down at 2:30 to take my lunch, which I should have had it like 2 hours ago. But so when she started in on me about not pulling my weight that day, I'm like, I literally, I remember saying this to her, I made 12 bowls of frosting, which was these big mixers. They had 3 or 4 of them, these really large mixers. Because at the end of the year, they have these, around the holidays, they have really big orders. So I had to make frosting while the baker was making the cakes. I was making the frosting for her. But there was like 2 or 3 different frostings. So every time I make, like I'd make 3 batches of chocolate and 4 batches of vanilla for the lemon cakes or whatever. And when I made the chocolate ones and then I put it all aside, I had to take apart the mixers and go wash them myself because the dishwasher was doing something else, because she was also helping out, you know. I think she was making pie crusts. So the dishwasher was also, you know, she'd make pie crusts and, you know, make cornbreads and stuff too, because this time of year it was like really busy. So I had to wash the, you know, after making the chocolate frosting, wash them, assemble it back together. And I'm like, you know, I had to go, again, measure all the ingredients, mix it, take care of the people who are doing takeout orders, taking care of, you know, they only had a couple customers outside in the lobby that day. But it was like, I know that I did at least as much work on any other given day, but this manager had, you know, just not a very good attitude, and I felt it. I felt she was searching, she was digging for something to be mad at me about. And so I'm like, I just did 12, you know, I did all this stuff, I didn't take my lunch till this. I didn't give her an attitude back. I actually felt really hurt and really upset about it. So when she made the announcement of, you know, closing the restaurant, I was like, you know, I had to think about it. I gave it a couple days and I was like, you know, I can't be working in an environment where where the manager is going to be constantly looking for something to be mad at me about. I'm like, this is not worth $7.25 an hour. And even though I desperately needed the job, I was like, I can't be stressed out because I was there for 8.5 hours. I can't be this stressed out and be worried. So I had called her during the so-called vacation, and I said to her that I'm going to be looking for another job, that I'm sorry that I couldn't live up to her expectations, and that I'm going to leave. Consider this my notice. And I could have, because of the work conditions, my own mom told me to, you should contact the Better Business Bureau and report her. And I wasn't that type of person. I was like, no, I don't want to do that, because the thing is, the way this person runs her business, her restaurant, that, I kind of believed in karma. I didn't have Buddhist stuff in my house, but I believed that, if you continue on a certain pattern of bad behavior, that it's going to eventually, you're gonna feel it. Meaning, if you're throwing garbage and trash everywhere, you're throwing out garbage and trash, eventually some of that trash and garbage is going to blow back in your face. So I was like, I don't hate this woman. I was very upset. But I'm like, I'm not vengeful, and I don't hate people. Even though, she gave me plenty of things to be mad about. And I just gave you a small condensed version, even though it doesn't seem that condensed. But I wound up not, I didn't do anything. And it reminds me of this scripture, Romans chapter 12, verses 19 through 21. It says, "Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. Therefore, if thine enemy hunger, feed him. If he thirst, give him drink. For in so doing thou shalt heap coals of fire on his head. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good." So I'm not a vengeful person. I don't want the Lord to heap coals on this poor woman's head. But the reason why I'm sharing this testimony, I wasn't walking with the Lord then. Okay. And I wasn't aware of the spiritual warfare, Ephesians 6:12. So I was plagued. Satan, that was the closest I ever came to hate someone. I didn't hate her, but it's the closest I've ever come to hate someone. Okay. And because I hate some of the things people do, but I don't hate the people. So because Satan knew I was plagued in my heart and mind over this woman, even years later, he plagued me with that. Where, from time to time, I would think of this woman and I wouldn't think nicely of her. Like how, unfair the situation was, and how she didn't appreciate all the work that I did for her for so little money at the time. And I felt like I was being taken advantage of because I was a single mom. And because I felt like she knew I was going to take, a lot of hassle. But, obviously she didn't know me that well, because I'm like, I can't, I desperately need this job, but I can't continue in this type of environment. So I'm sharing this testimony because I wasn't a vengeful person. I didn't hate this person. I felt bad. I'm like, look, the way she's running her business, it's going to fail eventually. I didn't wish that upon her or anything, but I'm like, she's going to fail. And, somebody else will probably report her to the Better Business Bureau. And last I heard, her restaurant isn't there anymore, that it closed down. And it didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me at all. And this was before, the whole COVID stuff. I heard years later, I have a friend that used to go there. And he said, yeah, he was so disappointed when he was in the area and it wasn't open anymore. So, this video is about planting a good seed, okay? Even though it doesn't seem like that. That it's an example of, it's so much easier to plant a bad seed in someone's heart and mind than it is to plant a good one. That by this woman's actions and how she treated me, it planted a bad seed in my heart. And Satan antagonized and plagued me with the memory later that he wanted me, Satan, the Antichrist spirit, wanted me to continue to have bad feelings for this woman. And I had every right to have bad feelings of how she treated me, but, I let it go. I had to let it go. Even though it was years later, you're like, why would you still be plagued with that? Well, when you work so hard and you feel like you're being taken advantage of, and someone doesn't appreciate it, it really scars you in a way where you're like, I really, worked hard, I was being honest, and I was not taking advantage and taking advantage of anything. So it gets me where today, when I interact with certain people, about 6 months ago or so, I had someone on YouTube calling me their YouTube bestie. And it came out of nowhere. I was like, oh, okay. And then I said something, or I said a few things, contrary to how she saw things, and contrary to her beliefs, even though I was trying to speak truth and using scripture and reaching out and being a friend in return. And she completely walked away from me because she didn't like what I said. And it surprised me because it's like, as much as, the testimony that I just shared with what this woman did to me, it's like, if I saw this woman, like if I was driving through Concord and I saw that she was broken down on the side of the road or something, I wouldn't even take a second thought to pull over and help her out. Like, it's like I don't look at what she did to me 10 years ago and say, well, I don't like saying good luck, but it's like, good luck to you. Like, I don't know a word to use other than good luck. Finding some help. I'm not going to help you. Of course not. I would still help this woman out. But yet, the YouTube community, it's so different. Like, all you have to say is one bad thing. But here's the thing. It goes to show you how strong the spiritual warfare really is. It's so strong that, Satan's going around like a lion looking to devour people through their emotions. So, if you plant what you think is a good seed, but the other person perceives it as a bad seed, and it leaves a bitter taste in their mouth, and they get like a hair across their butt or whatever. Satan's going to use that. He's going to use that to devour you with, to plague you with, the way he tried to plague me with this woman that owns the restaurant, that managed the restaurant. He tried to plague me with that. And it was working on some level because, again, when I thought of her, it wasn't good thoughts. It was like, I just thought that she was, an unkind, insensitive person who was taking advantage of me. But, now that I have new eyes to see, I feel bad for someone like that because that's her testimony. I'm aware that what she says, what she does, how she treats people, that's her testimony that she has to go before the Lord. Unless she learns truth and she repents from her past actions of what she did. I've already forgiven her. I'm just sharing this testimony that, forgiveness is not always easy. I know she was in the wrong, but it's only plaguing me to still be thinking about it, because I bet that I don't cross her mind at all. She could care less about me. In fact, if she was broken down on the side of the road and I pulled over to help her, she probably wouldn't even recognize me. That's how people are. She probably wouldn't even remember me. Plus I probably changed a lot in 10 years, but anyhow, it's sad, but the spiritual warfare, especially now, it's more important than ever, how you react. And in fact, the reason why I shared the testimony is sometimes it's better to do nothing at all, say nothing at all, and just pray for them. Because Satan wants you to lean on your flesh and on your own understanding. And the Lord just wants you to love them and have mercy and forgiveness for others. So if you have forgiveness and mercy and you pray for that person, and do nothing, like again, I didn't call the Better Business Bureau on this woman. I wasn't vengeful in any way. I didn't go online and say this was a horrible restaurant or anything like that. I didn't do anything at all. And it was not only my mother who said I should have done something, but it was another woman. Bobby said I should have done something, and then there was, my second husband said I should have done something. And I was like, it's not in me to lash back. And that's what Satan wants you to do. He wants you to block people. He wants you to be unforgiving. And again, it's easier to plant bad seeds. It would have been bad seeds if I did those things then. Just like today, it's so much easier to get somebody irritated and mad than it is to get them to not be upset at you. So it's again, sometimes it's better to say nothing. It really is better to say nothing and just love them and say, Father, I don't know what's going on with this person. It's a spiritual warfare. I know that much. But I don't know what Satan's planting in that person's heart and mind. And Satan's seeds are bigger than the ones that we plant. They're like these big rocks that are in people's hearts. And it weighs on them. It really does. So when we come along, you know, it's a very tough road to navigate on what to say and do sometimes, but the Lord is like, you don't have to say anything, just love them. Just love them. By loving them, maybe you're putting some cracks in that rock in their heart. You know, maybe you're doing that. Or they're just going to hold on to that because they just don't know any better. But it's just up to us to love people and not be vengeful. Okay? Don't be vengeful. Don't clap back. That's what Satan wants you to do. So I love you, and God bless.